You're watching Local 44 Morning Brew, local news that matters.
At this place in history, we're in Burlington with Executive Director of the Vermont Historical Society, Steve Perkins. Steve, I'm really excited for this one. We're going to the movies.
We are going to the movies. We're going to talk about the very first movie filmed right here in the state of Vermont. We're standing at City Hall Park, but behind us is the old Hotel Vermont. It's known as the Vermont House right now, but at the time it was one of the swankiest hotels in Burlington, and they used it as a location for the shoot of this film.
What was the movie called?
So the film was called A Vermont Romance, and as the name implies, it was a story of a young lady named Dorothy and a young man named Jerry, following them from the countryside to the big city, and, you know, whether they end up together at the end of the film or not.
And when was it made?
So it was made in 1916, so 102 years ago. 2 years ago, in 2016, the Vermont Historical Society and the Vermont Movie Archive paid to have this film fully restored and a new score added to it because it's a silent film, and then traveled it around the state again.
Any big names in it?
No, not really. So the film was produced by the Vermont Advance, which is a newspaper of the Vermont Progressive Party, and they generally promoted modernization of Vermont, wanting people to move from the countryside into the cities and get jobs in industry because they felt that's where Vermont was going. And so they put out a contest, and who wants to be in this film, and folks voted. And so they cast a woman named Dorothy Whipple from Waterbury and a guy named Jerry Hunt from Derby Line, you know, the thriving metropolises, as it were, to be part of this film. No, they never went on for any other Hollywood, but they did star in A Vermont Romance.
Is it remembered as a good movie?
I think from modern film standpoint, you wouldn't call it, you know, a great film.
Not a classic.
Not a classic, but for its day, I mean, we're talking 1960, the very early years of commercial film. It was a good film. People went out, they saw it. The Vermont Advance traveled it all over the state of Vermont. It was probably the first film that many people in rural communities even saw. They saw their own landscape represented. And for us as historians looking back at it, the film provides incredible footage of what Vermont looked like in 1916. One of my favorite pieces of the film is a bakery scene. It kind of goes on really forever, but it was filmed at the Tip Top Bakery in White River Junction, and it's this interior scene of loaves going through machines and down conveyor belts and being baked, and a little out of place in a romance, but makes sense if they're talking about the modernization of Vermont.
So tell us a little bit about some of the other locations then.
So they filmed at the Hotel Vermont, which is currently behind us. They also filmed at the Hotel Van Ness, which is across the street from the Hotel Vermont, now the site of the TD Bank. The top floor of the Hotel Vermont had this gorgeous greenhouse garden restaurant, and that's where those pieces were filmed. They also filmed in Rutland, as I said, White River Junction, and then at the Clarendon Gorge for these kind of very dramatic outdoor scenes. I don't want to spoil the film too much.
Well, can people watch it still?
They can watch it still. So there are some clips available on YouTube because, you know, it is an old film. But if you want to get the true sense of it, I encourage you to go to the Vermont Historical Society website, vermonthistory.org, and you can actually buy a DVD or a Blu-ray of the fully restored film with a brand new score.
At this place in history.
You're watching Local 44 Morning Brew, local news that matters.